What if I told you? The Simpsons didn't actually predict the future. What if they simply understood people better than we understand ourselves? For over 35 years, this yellow cartoon family has made jokes that later became headlines. Elections, technology, global crises, social behavior, and every time something comes true, the internet asks the same question: how did they know? But the real answer is much more human. The Simpsons started in 1989. That means they've had over 750 episodes. That's not magic, that's pattern recognition. Most writers on the show studied sociology, politics, economics, human psychology. They didn't predict events, they predicted behavior, because humans repeat themselves. Different year, different technology, same mistakes. In the year 2000, The Simpsons aired an episode where Donald Trump becomes president. People still call it a joke. But here's what actually happened. Trump had already considered running for president, used celebrity status as political power, represented fame over experience. The writers weren't guessing. They were asking a question. What happens when fame becomes leadership? And years later, we got the answer. The episode wasn't prophecy. It was a warning disguised as comedy. Long before smartphones ruled our lives, The Simpsons showed people glued to screens, technology replacing human connection, kids raised by devices instead of parents. In one episode, Lisa talks to a device that thinks for her. Sound familiar? They weren't predicting iPhones or AI. They were predicting human dependence. Because humans always choose convenience over connection, speed over reflection. Technology didn't change us. It just exposed us. The Simpsons once showed a virus spreading from overseas. Panic, supply shortages, fear. People called it a COVID prediction. But pandemics aren't rare. Fear is. What they understood was how people react. Panic buying, misinformation, blame, instead of solutions. The virus wasn't the prediction. Human fear was. Homer Simpson represents millions of people. A job he hates, low pay, zero appreciation. Sound funny or painfully real? The Simpsons showed corporations valuing profit over people. Workers treated as replaceable, burnout becoming normal. This wasn't comedy, it was a mirror. And the reason we laugh is because deep down, we recognize ourselves. Here's the truth. Most videos won't tell you. With hundreds of episodes, some coincidences are guaranteed. But the reason these moments stand out is because they're built on human truths. Power corrupts, technology distracts, fear spreads faster than facts, greed repeats itself. The Simpsons didn't see the future. They understood the cycle. Despite all the chaos, The Simpsons always return to one thing: family. A broken father who still loves his kids. A mother holding everything together. Children trying to make sense of a confusing world. That's why the show survives. Not because of predictions, but because it feels human. So maybe the real question isn't, how did The Simpsons predict this? Maybe it's, why do we keep becoming this? The future isn't written by cartoons. It's written by choices, by patterns, by people. The Simpsons didn't warn us about tomorrow. They warned us about ourselves. And maybe, if we paid attention sooner, we wouldn't keep calling it a prediction. If this made you think differently, if it felt uncomfortably familiar, you're not alone. Because the scariest part isn't that The Simpsons got it right. It's that we keep proving them right. The Simpsons didn't just reflect society. They shaped it. Think about it. For decades, millions of people watched this show every week. Kids grew up with it. Adults compared life to it. Politicians quoted it. Entire generations learned sarcasm, irony, and skepticism from a cartoon. The show didn't just predict behavior. It trained us to see behavior. When the writers mocked corrupt politicians, audiences learned to question authority. When they revealed the absurdity of corporations, we learned to spot greed in real life. When they made fun of the media, we learned to distrust headlines. The Simpsons didn't predict the future. They shaped the lens through which we view it. And yet, we still ask, how did they predict this? instead of, why does the same story keep happening? Because look around, we still elect leaders based on popularity, not policy. We still trade privacy for convenience. We still fall for the same scams. We still fight the same battles. History doesn't repeat itself by accident. We repeat it because we refuse to change the story. And The Simpsons knew this. Take the character arcs, Mr. Burns. A billionaire who owns everything, cares about nothing, and always wants more. He doesn't evolve, he doesn't learn, because greed never does. Kent Brockman, the news anchor who exaggerates everything for ratings. He doesn't report the truth. He markets the panic. Sound familiar? Krusty the Clown. A celebrity who is loved publicly but miserable privately. A reminder that fame is not fulfillment. Chief Wiggum, a symbol of incompetence hiding behind authority. A reminder that power doesn't equal capability. These characters weren't designed just for laughs. They were warnings. Warnings we ignored. And then there's Lisa. Lisa Simpson is what the writers hoped society could become. Curious, empathetic, educated, driven. But what happens to Lisa? She gets ignored, dismissed, ridiculed for being too smart or too idealistic. The writers weren't mocking her. They were showing how the world treats people who try to change it. Lisa is the future we could have, if we'd stop pretending that intelligence is a threat. But let's talk about the jokes that weren't funny. In multiple episodes, the show hinted at environmental collapse, water shortages, political polarization, mass surveillance, corporate monopolies. These weren't predictions. They were logical outcomes of systems we built. It's not magic, it's math. If you ignore pollution long enough, you get climate change. If you let corporations merge unchecked, you get monopolies. If you turn politics into entertainment, you get chaos. The Simpsons wasn't forecasting, it was calculating. And here's a twist most people overlook. The writers didn't predict the future, the audience did. Because when viewers see an exaggerated version of society and say, "Yup, that feels real," that's not prophecy, that's recognition. We recognized the seeds of chaos long before chaos grew. We saw the warning signs years before the headlines caught up. We laughed at the jokes because they were familiar. And familiarity is the closest thing to prediction we have. So let's ask a more important question. If The Simpsons understands human behavior so well, why don't we? Why do we keep falling for the same traps? Why do we deny the same problems? Why do we repeat the same patterns? Maybe because it's easier to blame a cartoon than confront our own decisions. It's easier to say, they predicted it, than admit, we allowed it. The Simpsons isn't the problem. The mirror it holds up is. And here's the final thought. The part nobody wants to hear. If The Simpsons were made today, they wouldn't need new jokes. They could rerun episodes from the 90s, and they'd still make sense, because the world hasn't changed. Only the technology has. The characters remain the same. The behaviors remain the same. The mistakes remain the same. We are living in a loop. A brightly colored, sarcastic loop. And until we stop repeating the same human patterns, we'll keep giving people the illusion that a cartoon predicted the future. But the truth is simple. The Simpsons didn't predict